Hi everyone, it's Brave here again. So, the topic now that I want to talk about is difficult childhoods and how, when you're exposed to a lot of aggression and violence, how it can actually create a kind of weird, almost detached sense of fearlessness where, because you're exposed to such violence at a young age, it kind of makes you walk towards risk or walk towards dangerous situations. So someone else who wasn't raised in a dangerous, horrible, violent environment would see these things and run away or keep away and know that their safety is going to be breached. But someone who's already, been around such scary, horrible situations, it's almost familiar, it's normal. So, yeah, so that's what I want to talk about. So, what we are exposed to as a child, the good, the bad, it can be compared to a metaphor of being put inside a bottle as a kid by the parents or caregiver or guardian. And imagine you're in the bottle as a kid. Now, what would happen? We would either grow to take the shape of the bottle, or we will break our way out of the bottle. That restricts us. So, the bottle metaphor can represent the negative restrictions and rules that a dysfunctional parent or caregiver who had all the power, and they tried to impose unreasonable demands on the kids under their care. Like, for instance, I had a lot of weird experiences with my violent, malignant, sadistic, narcissistic mum. And she's a diagnosed narcissist, very violent, very cruel, neglectful emotionally, violent physically. And I remember, if she called me and said, dinner's ready, something as simple as that, and I was just playing as a child would, didn't want to leave my toys, playing in a bedroom and she's in the kitchen, and then if she didn't see me arrive in like 5 seconds after she called me, you know, she would call again, and then I would say, yeah, in a minute, I'll be there in a minute. And then you'd think, okay, it's not a big deal. A normal parent would be like, it's not a big deal. Even if you wanted everyone to sit at the dinner table at the same time, it's just a few seconds, right? But a narcissistic, violent, lunatic parent will get a belt and run into your room like a serial killer, and just start lashing you with the belt. So that's what happened to me. And then leave the room, leave you on the floor crying, beaten, confused, terrified. And now you're hungry because you're like, well, dinner was ready, now I've been beaten and I don't know if I'm going to get beaten again when I enter the kitchen. So you sort of lie on the floor, weeping, sobbing in the dark, sad, confused, hungry now, and you're wondering, should I go and get food? Am I going to get beaten if I go and take some food out the pot, or what do I do? So, in order to try and appease this monster, because you don't know what they're going to do next, I remember, and I feel sad even saying this, it's like this memory came up in my head the other day, and I felt that poor kid I was, who just hadn't done anything wrong, just was born to the wrong kind of parents, just a sweet, innocent soul, because I was such a kind, loving child. I wasn't like a horrible, wild, evil child. I was just a lovely, kind, beautiful little girl. And I remember I would get some paper, like an A4 pad of paper, or, that was in my room, and then get a marker pen and write, I'm sorry, on the bit of paper. Then I would hold it in front of my face and walk into the kitchen, because I was so scared that she was going to hit me again if I went to go and eat. And this is like from the age of, say, 10, between sort of 7 and 10, this happened, where she would call me for dinner, and just being a little kid, you might not. I mean, it only happened once or twice where I had to write "I'm sorry" on the bit of paper because she unexpectedly ran up and started beating me because I didn't get to the kitchen within 3 seconds of her calling me. Maybe I was in the toilet, maybe I was doing something else, maybe I couldn't run over there in 3 seconds. It was so sick. And I hate that woman. I just hate my narcissistic parents because they were so evil and it was so unnecessary. And people will say, oh, well, it was their psychological, personality disorder, it wasn't them. But the disorder is them, you know what I mean? It's very hard to separate the two. The only compassion I have is towards the child they were who was abused, and that's what created the monster. I have no compassion for the monster they became. I have compassion for the child they were that was abused by other monsters. But it's very hard for me to not get angry and not hate them. Forgiveness is not my strong point. And so, yeah, I remember, like, even thinking about it now, I'm visualizing it in my head, and I remember just being so sad that I had to fear this person I loved, that I couldn't rely on her to just love me and not mistreat me. I would have taken a bullet for this person that was my mum, yet they were a monster who wouldn't have done the same for me. And I know that for a fact because as an adult, there was multiple times where she could have saved my life and she didn't. Other people had to step in and help me, who weren't even my family, who didn't even know me that well, but they cared more about me to save me than my own blood. So yeah, it's very upsetting, when I think about that. And then I remember, like, like I said, I walk into the kitchen slowly with this bit of paper in front of my face, kind of shivering, like, oh my God, am I going to get beaten? And then I can't see her because I got the paper in front of my face. So if she is going to beat me with the belt, I'm not going to see it coming. So I was just praying that she'll, even though I didn't do anything wrong, she'll just take the apology on the bit of paper and let me eat. So, I put, like I said, I had the paper in front of my face and I'm looking down, because I'm expecting to get hit, and then she says, sit down, eat your food, but then it's like, phew, okay, at least I can eat. But it was just terrifying to think that you couldn't have a normal life. It was horrifying. And I know I'm not the worst victim. That's the scariest thing, to think that kids got worse than me, worse abuse than me. I mean, oh, because there were so many other horrible things she did. Like one time I remember I can't even remember what happened. I think I was a bit older, like maybe 11. No, maybe 10 or 11. And she was saying, like, something stupid, like, make sure you shut the door, or something stupid. Like, it wasn't a big deal. It was like, just close the bathroom door. And I didn't close the bathroom door because I forgot. And it wasn't even like the door being closed was important or not. It wasn't letting any heat out or any pets out. It wasn't important. Why don't you close the door? But it wasn't a big deal. And then so she sees the door isn't shut. Then suddenly this stupid lunatic is running at me with a belt. I thought I told you to close the door. And then I'm thinking, oh my God. So I run into the bathroom and lock the door. And I'm thinking, haha, loony, you can't get me now, can you? Even though I thought, well, I can't live in the bathroom and I can't climb out of the window because where am I going to go? But for a second, I was like, haha, you can't get me. I'm locked in the bathroom. Only to see. So I'm sitting on the toilet lid. Toilet lid's closed. I'm sitting on the toilet lid like, haha, outsmarted you this time. You didn't run fast enough to catch me this time. But then I look at the door and the latch is turning by itself. I didn't know you could put a screwdriver or a coin and turn the latch and open door. It was a very simple latch that could be opened from the outside. Oh God, like I'm not laughing. I'm laughing because I just remember how shocked I was. Like, I'm not laughing because it's funny. It's not, and I'm the victim of it. But it's like the shock was like, oh shit, oh my God. So then I remember feeling terrified now because I'm like, oh my God, the door's gonna fly open and this monster's gonna lash me with the belt, and I hate the pain of the belt. It's so painful and welts up your skin, and this monster, will lash you multiple times, as if they absolutely hate you. It's like you're a prisoner and they're a prison guard. And then the sickest thing is, you're a child. The belt, even one lash of that belt would be so painful, but they're doing it multiple times, and they're using all their strength. What kind of lunatic would do that? But you can tell they were sick in the head. There was something severely wrong with these people. I think narcissistic personality disorder is a mental illness. It should be up there with severe mental illnesses. It's not just a personality disorder, and so then I sort of fell on the floor between the toilet and the sink, and just covered my head and was trying to stuff myself between the sink and the toilet to minimize the lash of the belt, because I thought, well, the sink, she can't get enough hits on me because the sink will block it or the toilet will block it. And then I was literally shaking, and then for some weird reason she just looked at me all shaking and huddled in like a ball, and then she just shut the door and walked away. And I was like, what the? And I was glad, but I was confused, like, oh. And I wonder if it's just because she couldn't get the belt to reach me. I don't know. I have no idea. I never asked the monster about it. And but yeah, like those two things stood out, just thinking recently about, my childhood, just that fear and that insecure, not having the security and protection that every child deserves. Even adults deserve, protection, and to feel safe with anyone they're around, family, friends, whoever. Every human being deserves peace and protection in their life. So yeah, it just makes me so angry to think that these monsters, got away with that crap for so long, because I would never hurt anyone, let alone a child. It's very sickening. And so let me just look at my notes. Yeah, so like I said, I had to sit at the dinner table with my abuser every night, um, who punished me for not knowing things that they never taught me, and then you hate them. And then one time I said out loud, I hate you, because I did. And then they beat you for saying that, you're crying from their physical abuse. Then they tell you, stop crying or I'll give you something to cry about. Well, you already have. Your bad parenting, your abuse, your violence, emotional and physical, you give me plenty to cry about. And you won't even let me cry out. You're so evil, you got to take my tears as well. Ugh, just awful. So, I'm lucky I'm still the kind, decent soul I am, because if my mind had split, I could have become a narcissist. But, I'm so grateful that God blessed me with so much strength that my mind didn't split. And like I said, I have compassion for my my parents as kids, when they were kids, and it was their abusers were their, mums or aunts or family or dads or whoever, and then they couldn't handle the terrible abuse they were subjected to, so their mind split and they became a narcissist, you know. And I have compassion for the child they were, but not the monster they became. So yeah, so because, like I said, I had to sit with my abuser every night and pretend everything was okay in between the beatings, it was, what that weirdly taught me was not to fear impact. I didn't like it, but it kind of it meant when I went to school, if anyone hit me or tried to bully me, I wasn't afraid if they hit me, because I got much worse from my sick parents, my sick mother. So like I was saying in another video, how the anger I feel towards my dysfunctional family, it never went away. I can't forgive. It feels impossible to forgive, and it's like, yeah, so like I said, I was never afraid to take a punch or give a punch, and I feel like it made me much more prone to violent outbursts, not against anyone, not to hurt anyone, but like if I saw injustice or unfairness, bullying or racism, I would want to have, like, you had to hit me first. I noticed that I would never want to run up and punch anyone, but I would have like an aggressive, so not a violent outburst, I meant an aggressive reaction. So I would swear and scream and point out the injustice very loudly and draw attention to it, and if they said anything nasty, I'd say nasty things back. But if they dared to for anything that hit me, then yes, I would be not afraid whatsoever to take it to a violent place because they started it, but they would have to touch me in violence first because I'm a protector, not a bully. So, but yeah, it definitely feels like I wouldn't have been as okay with being in fights and physically scrapping with people if I hadn't been exposed to all this fighting, and I mean fighting at school and then the violence of my family from a very young age. And even though on one hand it's kept me safe being strong, being ready to fight, but it feels like you're a soldier ready for war all the time. You can never rest. You feel psychologically on edge. You feel never safe. You feel like everyone's out to hurt you. You have CPT, what is it? Complex PTSD, so complex post-traumatic stress disorder, which makes you feel like your body is just rattling with nervousness, but not nervous scared, nervous ready for any bad thing, ready for war, and it's not a nice feeling because I think it's like biologically your body when it's under stress, you have all this what is it, the stress hormone called cortisol will be constantly in your body when it shouldn't, and it can affect your nervous system and make your health worse, affect your health. And yeah, it's very, as an adult, unfair treatment triggers me, reminds me of my sick family, how they were never fair, never normal. You learn to be more distant, more detached, numb to cope with the powerless feelings, So like in my life, for instance, if something's going on and I have no power to change it, something negative, even though as an adult, I can try and get away from things as much as possible, because I do have, the choice to leave certain situations. But if I can't, for whatever reason, then you feel like you have to detach mentally if you can't physically. You try and numb yourself so that the pain of the past isn't affecting you, plus the pain of the present. It's very hard. And as an adult, sometimes we don't realize that we are tolerating disrespect and abuse, whether direct or indirect, because it's familiar. So it doesn't scare you and you hate it. You don't want to be mistreated or verbally abused or physically abused, but you've had so much worse in childhood. It's like accepting abuse from people you loved, thinking, well, it could be worse, So if you're having an argument and your boyfriend pushes you, you think, well, he's not beating me with a belt, so it's okay, I'll overlook the fact that he pushed me. But you shouldn't, because why is he pushing you? Why did he feel he could disrespect that boundary and put his hands on you, even if it was a 5-year-old style push, like a silly 5-year-old to push another 5-year-old to take a toy, even if it was that level? Don't tolerate any abuse, because if you pushed him, it wouldn't be okay. So why is it okay for him to push you? And I've had that where someone I cared about pushed me during an argument, and I was like, touch me again, I'll break your hands off, and it was just like, see how my reaction seems more violent, more aggressive, even though I never had any intention of doing that to him, but I felt like I had to go more aggressive to let him know it's not okay for you to touch me in that way. But yeah, part of me is like, ooh, well, at least he didn't punch me in the face, or at least he didn't, because he's so much stronger than me, he could have thrown me across the room, or, you know, choked me out. Like, at least he didn't do that. He only just pushed me. But no, at the end of the day, I thought, if you did do anything again, I would have to physically attack you back, and I don't want to, but you're forcing me to go back to a time of trauma, and then I'm going to want to take out on you the aggression I couldn't take out on my mum, because I'm a good person. I'm not going to attack my mum, even though, like, society would say I was an evil child if I attacked my mum, even though she's abusing me with violence. And it's not discipline, it's abuse, because I wasn't doing anything to be disciplined for. It wasn't like, oh, I did something terrible and they just give you one slap to warn you. You know, it wasn't like that at all. So yeah, so there's been many, you know, people I knew who were with a husband, females, and they let the husband hit them with laptops across their head. They had like fluid coming out of their nose, which could be brain fluid. They could have, you know, they could have been killed. And their children were saying, Mum, please leave. Dad is going to kill you one day. Please leave. And they wouldn't leave because, oh, I love him. I love him. And I used to say, are you crazy? Your kids are even terrified and begging you to leave. And they said, don't stay for us. Don't stay for us if that's the reason you're staying. But she's not even concerned about the kids. She's obsessed with the man who's bashing her face in. And that kind of thing is so hard to understand, even though I understand the complex feeling of loving someone and then finding it hard to get away from them, because even though they're abusing you, you still love them. Yes, I understand that complicated situation. I do. But if that person, if the alternative, if the only choice is death or leaving, if you want to live, you should leave, you know. And it's so sad to see, you know, how many people will just tolerate abuse, you know, or even if they fight back, then it's like a man and woman fighting like cat and dog. And the thing is, the man is much stronger. He doesn't have to do as much to you to hurt you. But yes, you could use weapons or items, or you know, but it's, at the end of the day, nobody should be touching anybody in a relationship or in a family, or, you know. And it's very, very hard to understand, you know, why there seems to be a vicious cycle, a generational curse of violence in certain families. You know, in my opinion, if you knew what it felt like to suffer as a child at the hands of abusive family members, why would you pass that on and visit on me that terrible feeling and pain? You knew what that felt like. But obviously, narcissistic personality disorder, you know, it allows them to carry on the abuse and not feel empathy, and not be able to see that what they're doing is wrong. They're like a robot carrying out a program. They can't even stop, even if they wanted to. That's the sad truth. But yeah, it's like I said, it's, you know, when you've had so much pain and confusing situations, it makes it hard when you grow up, because you see your parents are dysfunctional, your family is dysfunctional, so you kind of want the eyeless, sorry, you kind of look at TV and see all these normal families on TV and the ideal family template, and then you kind of almost want to create a perfect family that doesn't really exist. And so you might go out into the world looking for Mr. Right, and you're going to have the 2.4 children and a dog and a white picket fence, as people say. And when you don't find that, you get depressed and resentful, because you're like, why can't I have a normal family? All I want is a normal family. All I want is a normal boyfriend or girlfriend or whoever. And when you can't find that, it's like the harsh reality of the world being so rubbish as it is, people being cold and distant and not caring to be real, true, long-term, loyal partners to each other. They just want to use people. And, you know, I mean, look at how many young ladies have multiple children by multiple different men they barely know. That is a trauma, that they are living out a trauma. Their trauma is they want to be loved. They clearly didn't feel loved by their dad, or their dad abandoned the family. They didn't know how to interact with men because there wasn't a good man in their family to teach them respect for themselves, self-respect, and this is the way men will try and trick you. Don't fall for it, you know. And that's a story, that's a video for another time, I think. But yeah, it's really hard when you've had abuse, you know, from childhood, because then when you grow up, you may not leave abusive situations straight away. You know, you might not have intentionally walked towards them, but you might have inadvertently picked someone who was distant or cruel, like your father or mother, but you didn't realize you were doing it. You kind of, there was something weirdly familiar about this person, or that person might have had trauma as well in their childhood, and so there was something connecting you both, whether it was your trauma that bonded you together, whatever it was, you know. And then because you've both had trauma, then it's like when you're the good one, but then the other person don't have good control of themselves, you kind of not afraid of, you hate their abuse or you hate their verbal, you know, abuse or physical, but you're sort of used to it, so you're giving it levels. Like I said before, you might say, oh well, he only pushed me, oh he only threw a drink in my face, he didn't punch me, he didn't choke me out, he didn't lash me with a belt, so I can tolerate a drink in the face, I can tolerate he threw a book at me and it hit me in the head, I can tolerate, you know. And that's the sad thing, why should we tolerate any type of destructive or nasty behavior? We shouldn't. Boundaries need to be set, you know. But it's very hard, and I know it's not black and white, and you know, I'm not judging anyone who stays with people they love if the relationship's not perfect and abuse has taken place. I just pray that you know, boundaries can be put in place, counselling can be done, or things can improve. I don't want anyone to have to fight anyone, even if you're a female who punches him back if he punches you. You know, your kids are watching this and they're going to grow up dysfunctional because they saw dysfunction growing up. Either they're going to be terrorized and not know how to go out into the world and be brave and fearless, or they're going to be overly violent, or you know, there's so many things that can happen negatively based on what we've seen growing up, all the negatives. So anyway, that's all for now, and God bless everyone, and I hope you have a good day or night wherever you are in the world, and I wish you peace, love and protection. And I just hope that all the good souls out there can get the peace they deserve and not have to live in any kind of dysfunction at all. So that's it, but bye for now, take care, thanks.